last year or this year. So you know what will come now. Just for us, we're always very happy to have him here. A philosopher who is also a novelist, one of these thinking artists and artistic thinkers. And that is his dirty secret, also comes from science and mathematics. You know, so he will not allow us to just jump around. We have to do it on Earth. Alain Badiou.
As you know, as everybody knows, the very essence of democracy is number. If a question is very important for many people, it's not at all democratic that only one person decides about this question. That is dictatorship, and probably worse, totalitarianism, which is impossible to pronounce correctly. And it is why it's worse. Certainly, our graduate school is absolutely a democratic school. A democratic school with a king. As you can see, our friend Wolfgang Scherschmacher has not a simple chair. He has a stool. But the existence of a king is not a problem for a democratic state. In our democratic school, the title of my lecture is certainly a very important question. For me, and consequently, for you. So, I cannot decide alone the title. It would be a proof of political perversion. Sexual perversions, as you know, don't exist. Because there is nothing as a normal sexuality. There is a good plurality of sexual practices. But political perversions exist. For there is only one normal politics, which is the democratic one. So, I could not decide alone the title of my lecture. I could not be the dictator of my own lecture. I have to announce to you the terrible news: there is no title. You and me, as a small part of our democratic community, have to decide the title of my lecture. After the lecture, naturally, because all citizens ought to have a good information. And under the law of number, I propose as a rule, the decision about my title will be taken at the first round by an absolute majority, and if it's not the case, at the second round, after reflection, a week, for example, or a month, or a year, maybe, by a relative majority. So, I have only to begin the lecture without title. The present moment is certainly like a permanent apology of satisfaction, pleasure, good private life, sexual harmony, familial happiness, democratic freedom, expressive capacities of all groups, complete equality of all sexual practices, respect of the other, and so on. My friend Slavoj Žižek is the best to describe the details of this delicious fable. Beyond all that, we have, as an ontological determination of the subjects, the question of a real enjoyment. Enjoyment in the French sense of jouissance, which is very difficult to translate. Today, the quasi-familial imperative is enjoy as you wish, enjoy as you can. This imperative holds from now and forever, modest, modern, and realist. There are two versions of this imperative of enjoyment. One is leftist, the other is rightist, or liberal in the French sense. The leftist version is always presented as emancipating or radical. It is concentrated in a May 68 slogan, enjoy without shackles. Let us say that the slogan, enjoy without shackles, concentrates in it what we could call a completely unconnected conception of existence. I refer you for the poetics of this conception to two films of Philippe Garrel, a French director of movies. The first is Le Vent de la Nuit, the wind of the night, which speaks with force of May 68 and of the impossibility of transmitting it. And the other is Sauvage Innocence, savage innocence, which tracks down the exact point of nihilism, the point at which enjoying and dying are indiscernible. We clearly see in this film, Savage Innocence, that a drug is something quite different from a dependency or a pleasure. Drugs are a metaphysics of the rupture of all connections, a complete freedom in regard to the necessity of relationship. Drugs is what renders inactive any connection and artificially produces a truly unshackled enjoyment. One is as a kite outside any connection. However, a real world is nothing but a system of connections. So we can say that the unconnected conception of existence, in the unconnected conception of existence, the enjoying is purely and simply the negation of the world. It really is then a question of nihilism. Finally, in its leftist version, nihilism is the enjoying in itself. It is a question of turning oneself into the scraps of the connections of the world, and so of being dead to the world, like a saint, but much more miserable than a saint, since what one sacrifices the world to is only the absence of God. In its rightist or liberal version, the imperative is to purchase some enjoyment.